This tutorial will show you behind the scenes of an amazing vintage lens known as a Helios 442. I've been using this lens for the past month, mainly as a challenge for myself filmmaking, but also to craft beautiful images with its characteristics. As a disclaimer, this is not a full-on sponsored lens review. I will only be talking about my experience using it, as well as offer some tips if you're using it with a Sony camera body. This past weekend, I was able to bring some friends on a hike where I live in Hawaii and test out the limits of this particular lens. I'm using the Sony a7S III as my camera, which the lens supports Sony E-mounts if you get the adapter for it. The thing that draws my attention to this lens is the soft and slightly out of focus shots. It feels like a dream, like everything is alluring and beautiful. When I use this lens, manual focus is pretty easy to nail down, and I think some of my best cinematography comes when I am pulling my own focus. I'm glad that I stepped away from using the autofocus of the more modern and sharper Sony lenses because this just helps me grow in my filmmaking craft. I find that the best image that comes out of the Helios 442 is by using a Pro Mist 1/8 filter and a neutral density filter that has accurate colors and no weird vignetting. The 1/8 mist filter creates a soft bloom effect in the highlights, which looks like a nice roll-off that you can see in cinematography. A neutral density filter allows you to control exposure and stop down to the widest aperture, which is f2. Stopping down to f2 on the lens creates this swirly bokeh effect that looks really unique that the more modern, sharper Sony lenses don't have. Here's a tip you probably didn't know, but the Sony camera actually calibrates its stabilization closest to the focal length of the lens you equip on it. Make sure that it's set to 55mm as it's the closest to it, and you shouldn't see these weird warp effects when you use steady or active stabilization. For a lot of my handheld shots, I use active stabilization, and by adjusting the setting, I was able to get stable shots without too much rolling shutter or warp. Keep in mind though that the setting is only available if you're using manual focus lenses. All in all, I really had fun with this lens, and I would highly recommend picking up this one to create unique images and to practice pulling focus before using a cine lens. Vintage lenses are one of the most underrated tools in filmmaking, and I believe that by investing in this inexpensive piece, you are adding something valuable to your toolkit. If you made it to the end of this video, please give this video a like as well as subscribe for more helpful tips and reviews like these. I'll catch you guys next time, and as always, take care.